New crops in Farming Simulator 22. Sorghum, grapes, and olives. But what makes these new crops so special? Hi, I'm Ken Burgess, the QA lead over at Giant Software, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the new crop types coming to Farming Simulator 22 and how we brought them into the game. We have 3 distinct new crop types for Farming Simulator 22. Sorghum, which is a new grain type, and of course, grapes and olives. These grapes and olive vines can be then placed with our new build mode into the game. So you'll be able to place them in these beautiful rows and then use new machinery and equipment to take care of them and harvest them. We chose these 3 different crop types specifically because, first of all, sorghum is very popular among our US-based players and very big in general in American agriculture. And grapes and olives, on the other hand, they bring something completely new to the game in the way that they're handled and harvested. It's just something that we're not used to in previous parts of the Farming Simulator series entries. Also, they tie in very great with our new production chain system. Bringing new crop types into a game is always a real challenge, especially with something such complex like grapes and olives. We had to think about how are we going to implement these vines and a system behind it. New crop types means new gameplay experiences, new kind of scripts we have to come up with, and also, especially the whole vine system was, we had to think about how are we going to enable the player to place them in the game. And this was actually a very big inspiration behind the whole build mode as we currently have it in FS22, where you're able to place buildings, place vines, and more. Grapes and olives, the whole handling process, the harvesting, and the machinery used, it's all a very new, exciting gameplay aspect of Farming Simulator 22. Our vines in-game have their own collision, so you will have to drive to them with a harvester and manually navigate it across these vines. It'll then shake off the olives and grapes, which you can then of course use to further process them or sell them directly. And you can use specialized sprayers that drive along these vines to protect or also fertilize your vines, of course. As you can see, the width between these vines is about 1 meter to 1.50 meters, and you will be using specialized cultivators that dig along this area. That just helps generally to loosen up the soil so these plants get more water and can grow better. For grapes in particular, if you want them to grow back again, once you've done harvesting your first batch, you will have to cut back these leaves right here. And then in the next year, since you don't have to place the vines again or anything, they will just grow back naturally afterwards. You might be asking, what can you do with all these new crop types? Well, let's start with olives, for example. Olives you can use to either sell them directly at a supermarket or a similar one of our new selling stations, or you can bring it to an oil mill if it belongs to you and process it further into olive oil. Then of course we have our grapes. Grapes can be either refined to grape juice, which is perfectly suitable for all ages, or you can further process them into raisins and then bring them to the cereal factory, for example. That will then continue producing them further. And of course with sorghum, sorghum is mostly handled similar to other grain types in the game. So you can sell it at different selling stations. You can use it to feed your animals, such as horses and pigs, or you can use it to bring it to the flour mill, which then in turn can be redistributed to the bakery, for example, to produce bread or cake, which then can be sold for much more gains. So to implement these new vines and also the machinery, we worked very closely with New Holland. That both helped us out tremendously with references for the new machines. They also played a very important advisory role in getting these vines and their design just right, so we can present it to you in a very good way in the final game. Of course, modding is a very important aspect for all of us here at Giants and also the Farming Simulator community as a whole. So when we set up this new system of vines and how they're placeable and how they all work in the game, we always kept modders in mind. So once the game launches, if you have an idea for a similar fruit that behaves in a similar way, you can of course use this new system to get that new content into the game easily as well. As you might know, we now have seasons implemented directly into the game. So, for the first time ever in Farming Simulator 22, you will have this kind of seasonal growth calendar. And you will always have to be on the watch on when to plant and when to harvest your fruits, such as grapes, olives, sorghum, and of course, all other crops in the game. This is optional, of course, you can turn it off, but if you play with it turned on, always be sure to keep an eye on your grapes.